No, 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 no. Now this is what I usually tell people when they ask me, hey, should I start a nonprofit? I'm thinking about starting a nonprofit. What do you think? 99.9% of the time, I tell you no. And typically it's because one of the following questions people answer no to. So stick to, so you can hear these 6 questions you need to ask yourself before you start a nonprofit 501c3. Hi, I'm Kelly, the nonprofit nerd, and I help nonprofit leaders create an organization and life of intention, ease, and incredible impact. Now, if you're landing on this video today, I highly suspect you've been thinking about doing something that's very noble, which is starting a nonprofit to hopefully fill a need in your community or in the world, and you're here landed on my channel, Kelly the Nonprofit Nerd, so that I can help you. And you might have even been a little bit turned off by that beginning where I said 9% of the time I tell you no. Well, welcome to video 1 of 3 of this 3-part series where I'm going to be going through the questions you need to ask yourself before you start a nonprofit, the 5 things you need to do in video 2 next week, the 5 things you need to do before you start your nonprofit 501c3, and then finally video 3, the one you're probably waiting for, is how do I start a 501c3? So let's get started with video number 1, and these are the 6 questions you need to ask yourself before you get started. Is there really a need for the nonprofit idea you have? Now, chances are if you have a nonprofit, you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, there's either a program you have an idea of, or you've seen a problem in your community that you just want to help solve. But really, before you go and start a nonprofit, do the grunt work of figuring out a nonprofit's all about filling a need in the community and providing a solution to a problem. So is there a need? Is there a problem? Dependent on what this can be talking to other organizations like in the same sector. This can be doing market research. This can be providing surveys. This is definitely has to be looking at data and resources available to establish if there's a need. Just because you have an idea for a program or service doesn't mean that there are people in need of those programs and services. So before you even get started, before you go through all the paperwork of starting a 501c3 that I'll be going through with you in video 3, ask yourself and do the research to establish if there is indeed a need that your nonprofit is going to address. Question number 2, and I'm probably going to get some people going off this video right now, the question is there already an organization doing what you want to do in your community? And it kills me so much, the duplication of services of nonprofits. So many people, and this is especially true with after-school programming and things to address hunger in communities, as people deplete resources by duplicating services. So please, I beg of you, for the good of your community and for the good of the need you're trying to solve, ask yourself and look into the community to see if there's already an organization that's addressing the need in a similar way or maybe with a similar program idea. And if they are, before you go and say, no, I want to start a nonprofit, see, can you partner with them? If you think they're doing something maybe that isn't following best practices or that maybe isn't approaching things in a way that aligns with your mission and vision or with the vision or values of your organization, that's okay. But before you go creating your own thing and duplicating sources and duplicating services and depleting resources, ask yourself, is there already an organization filling that need? And if so, are they doing it with similar programming or not? And if they are, I highly encourage you, and I think it's wonderful that you've landed on this video and you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, but at least open up those conversations before you get started with those organizations that are already doing what you're trying to do in your community. The third question you need to ask yourself, and really this will kind of get fleshed out during the business planning, is it more about solving a problem or is it more about providing programming or the activity or the idea? I really think as I go through my last few questions, you'll get a better understanding of this, but it's so important that nonprofits Their very foundation is to solve a problem. They have a mission to solve a problem and they're working towards it. So really look, is your idea for a nonprofit about solving a problem? I hope it is. A lot of you are. If it is, please drop a comment below and let me know. I'd love to learn a little bit more about your nonprofit idea. But really ask yourself, is it about the programming or the activity, or is it about the problem and the mission to solve it? If it is, yay, please like this video because I'm doing a little victory dance for you because you're just one step closer. If you answered positively to those questions or on the right side, I'm really excited to go through the next few questions with you about questions you need to ask yourself before starting a nonprofit. Questions 4 and 5 are kind of interconnected, but you need to ask them separately. Question number 4. And this is because, and y'all know that person. This is because often it's not the case. Is starting your nonprofit that you want to be the founder of, is it about ego or is it about the mission separate from you? So ask yourself that question number 4 and question number 5. I honestly recommend for question number 5, maybe even like pause this video and journal a little bit about it or write the note down for later to do some deep work. How would you feel if your organization that you've thought of creating, how would you feel if your organization reached its mission? Like, we always joke in the nonprofit world that our fundamental goal as nonprofits is to put ourselves out of business, that there's no longer a problem that needs to be solved. So how would you feel if you created this nonprofit and it was no longer needed because you reached the mission? And if you would be very excited, that's positive. If you're like, no, this is very intertwined with my identity, then think a little bit more about if this is the next step you want to be doing. And finally, the last question you need to ask yourself before going about starting your nonprofit, and congratulations if you've gotten this far that you're Googling, congratulations if you've gotten this far that you've gotten to the 6th question because you feel like you're on the right momentum and what I'm saying makes sense to you and doesn't really pertain to you. The last question is, not only do you have a mission and a problem you're going to solve, but what's the vision of your organization? What would it look like in 3 years, in 5 years? What would it look like without you in it? And even before you go starting to talk to external people, start to think about this. This is something that will grow and change as you go about the formation. And hopefully if you do some of the deep work where it doesn't just involve you and what's in your head and your ideas, but if you're really a strong nonprofit founder, this is a community coming together of individuals that have skin in the game and care about the problem and want to provide solutions, and they're all giving their ideas and expertise, especially as you develop a board, which is what I love nerding out about, but really look at what is the vision of your organization. And I hope that with those 6 questions it helped you get some clarity as we go about the videos these next 2 weeks. So stick with me for next week for video number 2 of this nonprofit startup series, which is 5 things you need to do before you start your nonprofit 501c3. And then finally, video number 3 of the 3-part series is how do you start a nonprofit? Thank you again. Stick with me and make sure to subscribe below. I'm Kelly, the Nonprofit Nerd, and I look forward to seeing you next week.